This is the Japanese way to lose visceral fat fast. Now, the Japanese are 10 times leaner than the average American and 6 times leaner than the rest of the population. These are 5 rules to lose your fat fast. But this is something that nobody's talking about online. It's just not the fat that you can see. The dangerous one is the fat that you cannot. And as a doctor, I've seen this firsthand. I see it almost every single day. So at Scope by Science, we look at DEXA scans and CT scans every single day with clients who want to work with us. And what those scans show stops those people in their tracks every single time. Because they come in looking completely normal on the outside. And I ask myself, what did they need help with? Average weight, nothing alarming. And then the scan shows fat that's packed densely around the liver, around their pancreas, their intestines, sometimes their heart as well. And organs are being suffocated from the inside. We call this TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And it's arguably the most dangerous fat, and it's arguably more dangerous than being visibly overweight because you have no idea it's there. And I'm gonna share a scary story from a client of mine. Now, this is one of the main reasons why fit people suffer from heart attacks. My client, Brian, is the perfect example.
I started with you guys in January, so I was like kind of mid-program. And honestly, I had felt so good, felt amazing. So I just went out for any ride like I normally would after work one day, and I was out on the trail, just finished some downhill and was on my way back up. And I just had this uncomfortable pain in my chest, which wasn't like anything I had understood a heart attack to be. Walked into the hospital, they took me right back into the ER, and they told me that, oh, you're having a cardiac episode. And I looked at them like they were crazy. Like, what are you talking about?
His cardiologist said that the work that we had done together is what kept him alive. That's TOFI. Now, imagine if you're in that 20 to 30% body fat range or more. If visceral fat is dangerous at your normal weight, imagine how much is packed inside of you when you're carrying a lot more weight overall. It just doesn't sit under your skin. Its significant portion is deep inside, surrounding your organs, driving inflammation, destroying your insulin sensitivity. And yes, it's not a vanity problem. This is a biology problem. And Japan has cracked the code on fixing it. I've traveled there myself. I'm actually going in 2 weeks. Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and Nagoya to find out exactly why they are 10 times leaner than us. And what I found is that the Japanese don't do anything extreme. No aggressive fasting, no carb restriction, no hours in the gym. They just follow 5 rules that systemically destroy visceral fat, and most of the world has no idea these even exist. So I'm going to share them with you today. My name is Dr. Michael Diamonds. I am a medical doctor, scientist, and pro-natural bodybuilder. I am also the founder of Scope by Science. That's what I do full time. So let's get into it. And let me know, I would love to know which one of these you're going to implement right now. I want to know what you're struggling with in terms of visceral fat. And for the next 72 hours of uploading this video, I will be replying to every single comment because I want you to win. So drop your questions down below. Now, step 1 is Japan's fat cell key. Every city I visit in Japan, green tea and matcha were everywhere. Now, not as a health product or in a supplement store. At every table, every office, every convenience store, it simply is what the Japanese drink the way the rest of the world, the Americans, drink coffee. Now, for years in the West, people have heard of green tea. And I completely brushed it off, right? I get it. I'm like, oh, it sounds like a supplement ad. It sounds like this magical drink. But the mechanics is real. And the reason most people haven't seen any benefit with it is because they've been drinking it completely wrong. So here's the biology. Your body has an enzyme called COMT. I'm gonna say COMT for short. Now, COMT's job is to break down something called norepinephrine. I'm sure you've heard of epinephrine before. Now, norepinephrine is the hormone that signals your fat cells to open up and release stored fat. When you get in a caloric deficit, the effect is the release of epinephrine, and it releases stored fat. Think of it as the key that unlocks the fat cell door. Now, when COMT is active, it destroys that key quickly. The fat cell door opens briefly, then closes again. EGCG, it is the active active compound in green tea and matcha. It inhibits COMT. It suppresses it. The key stays in the lock much longer. The fat cell door stays open longer, so more stored fat gets released. Now here is the specific reason this disproportionately hits visceral fat compared to other fat. Visceral fat cells carry a significant higher concentration of those receptors compared to subcutaneous fat. Basically, visceral fat has more locks where you can unlock, right? Where norepinephrine can work compared to the subcutaneous fat. So when EGCG keeps the signal elevated, visceral fat responds the hardest. And this just isn't theory. There's a randomized control trial, and it was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And it gave participants high catechin green tea daily for 12 weeks, right? Catechins, EGCG. No other changes to their diet or exercise, and the results, statistically significant reduction in visceral fat areas specifically, not just body weight, visceral fat measured directly. So here's the thing that people get wrong when consuming matcha and green tea. Now, someone reads that green tea burns fat, they're gonna grab Lipton from the gas station when they see green tea or a Starbucks matcha latte, right, with oat milk and 3 pumps of syrup, right, healthy. And then they wonder, okay, I don't notice any benefits. That's not green tea or matcha, that's sugar water. It will spike your insulin and work against every mechanism that I just described. For that main compound, EGCG, to reach its therapeutic level, you need 300 to 400 milligrams of catechins per day. And I'm gonna share with you where you can get it. And by the way, I'm not affiliated with any of these brands. All I did was like, you know what, I wanna make it convenient for you. And I just did the Googling for you. So option number 1 is Ito and Oi Ocha Sencha. It's the best-selling green tea brand in Japan. And it's available on Amazon. 3 to 4 cups per day will get you there. You want to brew it at 160 to 175 degrees Fahrenheit, not boiling, because the boiling can actually destroy the catechins. This is something you've never heard before. Water off the boiling, let it rest for like, let's say 90 seconds, and then steep it for 3 minutes. Option number 2. It is jade leaf organic ceremonial grade matcha. Ceremonial grade, not culinary. You want to have 1 to 2 cups per day that will help you hit your target. So 1 teaspoon, right? Add that to 175 degree water and then whisked straight. Please, no sweetener, no milk, nothing added. So how do we add this into your day? How do we build it in? Now, I want you to replace your second coffee with matcha in the morning. In the mid-morning, you can have 1 of those senchas, and then in the afternoon, another sencha instead of a third coffee. And when I say afternoon, I mean like cut it off by 11:59. No more caffeine after that. 300 to 400 milligrams, done, without having to think about it. And there is also one more thing. The walking protocol that I'm about to show you in step 3 amplifies all of this significantly. Walking raises that epinephrine level naturally that I was talking about. And EGCG keeps those catecholamines, epinephrine and norepinephrine, active much longer. And Japan does this by default. This is why the Japanese walk everywhere. They have their tea and they're doing this all day. We're going to deliberately recreate this in your day. But rule number 2, when I was walking through the Japanese markets, right, at the different parks, the first thing you see is color. Deep orange sweet potatoes, dark leafy greens, red miso, yellow squash, purple cabbage. And I came back and I looked at what most of my clients were eating in the past before working with us. And it's mostly beige in color. The chicken breasts, white rice, protein shakes, brown crackers, beige pasta. The difference in color in food is just not visual. There's biological science behind it. The pigments that give vegetable their deep colors belong to a family of compounds called carotenoids. Beta-carotene in sweet potatoes, lycopene in tomatoes, lutein in spinach, and capsanthin in red peppers. So here's what they do at a cellular level. Your cells in your body are generating waste, unusable molecules called free radicals. Now, when free radicals outpace your body's ability to neutralize them, this is when your body gets oxidative stress. Think of it like rust forming on the inside of your metabolism. Visceral fat thrives in that environment. Now, carotenoids are one of the most potent neutralizers of free radicals in whole foods, but this is where it can actually get very, very interesting. They don't just neutralize. And Japanese researchers actually did a double-blind study where they increased participants' carotenoid intake through specific vegetables, 8 weeks, no other changes. The carotenoids positively influenced the gene expression. They turned on genes responsible for fat oxidation, and they suppress genes responsible for fat storage. Actual gene switching. You ate these foods, it was going in your body and flipping switches to your benefit just from adding more color to your plate, which is crazy. And I'm sure you've heard you want your meals to be colorful, and now you know exactly why. The rule: if your plate is beige, you're feeding visceral fat. If your plate has real color, you're killing it. So here are 5 ways that you can rotate it every week. Sweet potato, 1 medium per day. You can just stab it a few times, right, with a fork in the microwave 5 minutes. You can have red, orange, yellow bell peppers. Slice them and you can have them raw. My wife likes to slice them and she adds a bit of salt and has it on the side. Zero prep. Spinach, you can make like an omelet meal and then have spinach as the bed to your toast, for example, with eggs on there. Carrots, you can have baby carrots as a snack, or in your plate, you can have them roasted on the side. Tomatoes, cook them. And cooking can actually increase the lycopene that your body actually absorbs. So I'll give you a sample meal plan. And let me know if you guys want a Japanese style 5 meals you should eat to kill visceral fat. Comment down below. Dr. Mike, make a Japanese style visceral fat diet. All right, so this is a easy one. So breakfast, you can have 2 scrambled eggs, right, on an omelet, and then you create a bed on the toast with spinach, maybe some bell pepper on the side. Lunch, you can have grilled chicken, spinach, roasted carrots and cherry tomatoes. For dinner, you can have a salmon with a medium sweet potato and steamed broccoli. And you have carotenoids in every meal. No change to your macros, no calorie targets, just hit your protein. Now, there is one critical detail. Carotenoids are fat soluble. They absorb significantly better with healthy fat. So do add a drizzle of olive oil on your spinach. Maybe add avocado to your sweet potato meal. Don't eat these dry because you're leaving a lot of this absorption your body needs on the table. Which reminds me, you heard Brian's story earlier.
My heart attack was on March 20th. So I'm almost to my year anniversary, which I plan on going out. So I had my heart attack when I was out mountain biking, and my anniversary this year, I'm going to go ride that same trail that I had my heart attack on, just to celebrate.
He was back on the bike riding that same trail where he had his heart attack to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. That is exactly what getting this right looks like from the inside out. Now, if you're watching this and you're someone who takes their performance seriously, maybe you're a busy professional, an executive, a business owner, a doctor, someone who pushes hard professionally but knows that their health hasn't kept up, that is basically who we built the business athlete program for at Sculpt by Science. We don't like guesses. The strategy is the science. We run a comprehensive blood work. We do DEXA scans if necessary, a full biomarker panel, and we build a protocol specific to your biology, not a generic plan. And what Brian had was personalized, medically supervised, and built around your actual life. If you want to work with me and my team, you can book your call. It is the first link in the description. We work with a small number of clients. We are boutique because I want to keep the quality ultra high. So don't wait until your body forces you to make a decision. But let's move on into step number 3. You may have heard of this one before, but I have to have this in there because it's something you must do if you haven't tried. I want to tell you about a study that completely changed how I like programming cardio. Now, researchers at Shinsei University in Japan took middle-aged and older adults and they put them on a walking protocol, not running, not a gym program, a specific walking protocol. 2 to 5 sessions per week, 30 minutes per session. After 4 to 5 months, their aerobic capacity improved by 10 to 15%. Guys, that's massive. Their systolic blood pressure dropped by 9 points. Every additional 10 minutes of this protocol reduced their waist circumference by 0.6 centimeters. Their leg strength improved by 13 to 17%. And here is the piece that me and my team of doctors were floored by, was their VO2 max. It is one of the strongest independent predictors of how long you live. So in short, the better your VO2 max, the more you're going to live. And it's just not a fitness number, it's more a longevity number. A higher VO2 max means a significant lower risk of dying from heart disease, diabetes, or all other causes. This walking protocol doesn't just burn the visceral fat, it directly extends your life expectancy. So the protocol is called interval walking technique, or IWT. So this is how it works. You walk briskly for 3 minutes. What I tell my clients at Sculpt by Science is, I want you to think like you're walking to your gate at the airport because you think you're gonna miss your flight, but you don't want to look crazy, so you're not sprinting, right? So think like you're trying to get to your gate before the flight leaves. Your breathing will pick up and you can speak a sentence, but you'd rather not hold a full conversation. Then you drop to a comfortable, easy stroll for 3 minutes. It's when you realize, I'm right here, like we have time, chill. Full recovery. So brisk for 3 minutes, easy for 3 minutes, and then repeat that for 5 cycles, 30 minutes total. No gym, no equipment, just a good pair of shoes. And this is why it hits visceral fat specifically, and why the Japanese are incredible for discovering this. Every basic interval that you do spikes catecholamines, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. Those hormones bind to the fat cell receptors and then they trigger lipolysis. Those hormones bind to the fat cell receptors and then they trigger lipolysis, that breakdown and the release of stored fat. Now, visceral fat has a higher density of those receptors on their fat compared to subcutaneous fat cells. So literally every brisk walk interval that you do sends a signal that the visceral fat responds to the most. Your body treats visceral fat like a fridge, first to be opened when the signal comes. So when you're in the easy recovery phase, your body burns fatty acids that you just released. Mobilize in the brisk phase, burn in the easy phase. And that's the 2-stroke cycle. And that's why IWT outperforms the steady state walking for visceral fat by a significant margin. So you may ask, okay, Dr. Mike, how do I implement this? I recommend fasted in the morning, let's say before your first meal, when your insulin is the lowest, your body goes directly towards your fat stores, and stack it in the morning, maybe with a green tea that I mentioned in step 1. And that way you're running 3 of the mechanisms that I mentioned simultaneously before 8 a.m. And if the mornings don't work, that's fine. After work, before dinner, just don't do it right after a large meal because it can be challenging. And remember, if you want to know if you're doing it right, you can do the talk test or just think of yourself trying to get to your gate before the flight leaves. You want to watch for your heart rate to increase. And I recommend just starting with 1 cycle, and then every week you can add 2 cycles, right? So 2 30-minute sessions during the week. And work your way up to 5 days a week. And my client, Nick, hated every form of cardio, every traditional cardio, and we stripped it back to just doing IWT, 5 mornings per week, fasted, nothing dramatic. And these were his photos. Belly fat visibly different. That refrigerator that he was accumulating visibly gone. But let's move into step number 4. Now, this is called Hara Hachibu. My favorite restaurant in Japan is something called yakiniku. It's yakiniku style. It's small plates that have meat. Niku literally means meat, right? It's very similar to Korean barbecue. So it's small plates of different foods, grilled meat, rice, right? And in Tokyo, whenever I ordered another round, it came quick. My theory is Tokyo's more of the tourist capital, so they're used to it. They got a lot of foreigners. But I also went to watch an F1 race, which was, the closest city was a city called Nagoya, and something different happened, right? Every time I ordered another round, the waiters would double and triple check if I was sure. They'd say, hey, are you sure you want? And I noticed it again more so in Kyoto and Osaka. And I also noticed the second round always took much longer, like significantly longer. And by the time the food came, I always realized, you know what? I'm fine. I didn't need to order this round. And by the time I left Japan, I stopped ordering seconds, right? During that whole 2 weeks I was there. In some restaurants, you can actually pay a fine for not finishing your food, right? Especially at the all-you-can-eat restaurants, which I do think every country should start doing, because adults will think twice before piling their plate unnecessarily. This practice has a name and it's called harahachibu. Eat until you're 8 parts full, or basically stop at 80%. So in Okinawa, it is one of the highest concentration of people who have lived past 100 years. And they practice this cultural default for centuries. So here's the biology. Your stomach and brain do not communicate instantly. When food arrives in your stomach, it releases satiety hormones that travel through your bloodstream all along the vagus nerve to reach the brain. That process takes approximately 20 minutes from when you start eating. And if you eat at, most American places, it's fast, you're distracted, maybe in front of a screen, maybe you're watching a show, and you've already overshot your satiety point before that signal arrived. Your brain gets the signal 20 minutes later. You've already eaten 20 to 30% more than what you needed every meal, every single day. You're used to it. But harahachibu accounts for that lag deliberately. So stop at 80% in the moment. Your satiety signal that tells you, hey, you're actually full will come 20 minutes later. It lands exactly right. Not when you're stuffed, not when you're still hungry, and using your body's biology instead of fighting it. So the caloric reduction from applying this constantly is 20 to 25% a day. This is exactly how the Japanese are so lean. They establish a caloric deficit by just simply thinking, hey, eat until you feel 80% full, without tracking, no restriction, without hunger. And visceral fat, the most accessible fat that you have, is the first to go. So 4 things that I would recommend you could start doing. 1, switch to a 9-inch dinner plate. The average American plate is 12 inches. That extra 3 inches is driving hundreds of unnecessary calories a day, and you can pick them up at Amazon. Number 2, count 20 chews before swallowing every bite. Now, how I do this is before I have any meal, the first bite I take, I'll count 20 to 30 chews, and that essentially sets the pace. And then I know, okay, awesome. If I'm eating faster than that, I'll notice. And I do this every single bite of every meal. And I'm actually in competition prep right now, and it literally keeps me from inhaling my food. And you'll be shocked at how fast you've been eating your whole life. Number 3, fork down between every bite and pick it up only after you've swallowed. It's just one mechanical change, but it can dramatically slower your pace, giving your brain enough time to get that fullness signal. No effort. 4, at least try for 1 meal per day not to eat in front of a screen, no phone, no tablet, no TV. This one's tough for me, I'll be honest. I love watching One Piece, for example. And in the past, I would just inhale my food without even registering that I even ate it. And if you still feel hungry later, like after 20 minutes, then go for the seconds. And research is clear on this. Distracted eating increases your caloric intake by 25 to 35% per meal. This is exactly how people gain this pound of weight a month without even realizing it. The food is going to your gut, but your brain is not registering it quick enough. Apply all 4 if you can, and you'll see that you end up establishing that 20-25% deficit without any tracking, no app, no suffering. Visceral fat gone every time. Now, the last Japanese rule. This is the step that I haven't seen anywhere, and it comes from a metabolic standpoint, and it might be super underrated, and it will change the way you make your meal. So the Japanese meal structure is something that's been followed for over 700 years, and it's called Ichiju Sansai. 1 soup and 3 side dishes. So when you sit down at a traditional Japanese meal, you don't get 1 large plate like a mountain piled with everything. What you get is a small bowl of rice, maybe a broth-based soup, and maybe 2 to 3 plates of small side dishes like a protein, a veggie, and maybe like a fermented food like pickles. And each component is modest, and each one separate nothing dominates. Now, most people look at it and think this is like a portion control thing, but it is actually a lot more than that. So visceral fat accumulation is driven primarily by chronically elevated insulin. So here's the chain. You eat a large single plate meal. It's rapidly digested, heavy in carbohydrates. Your glucose hits your bloodstream fast in high volume, and your pancreas responds by sending large amounts of insulin to control the glucose. And then the insulin pushes the glucose into your muscle and into your liver as glycogen. But if those stores are already full and you've been sitting the entire day, the overflow of that gets converted into fat, and it goes preferentially to your visceral fat. It's the easy one, right? Because it is more sensitive, your visceral fat, to the insulin-driven fat storage. And if you do that 3 times a day, every day, you're chronically directing excess energy directly into the most dangerous part in your body. Now, the Ichiju side disrupts that chain completely. The carbohydrate load per sitting drops automatically. A traditional Japanese bowl, 30 to 40 grams of carbs, and the standard American one is over 120 grams of carbs, especially when you add sauce. The protein from the side dish, the vegetables, right, that you get have fiber, and you get good acids from the fermented foods. All of these factors slow down gastric emptying before the carbohydrate reaches the small intestine. You get slower gastric emptying, slower glucose release, and a flatter insulin curve, and you also get less overflow, which means less visceral fat storage signals. And the current dinner plate that you're eating is this fire hose of glucose being pumped directly into your bloodstream. And the format of Ichiju Sansai turns this into a controlled drip. Same macros, completely different insulin response, completely different from the visceral fat outcome. So this is how I would recommend you follow this. You don't need to make Japanese meals, but just pay attention to the structure. So start your meal maybe with a broth or a soup. This step is mandatory. And a cup of low sodium chicken broth, maybe a miso soup, even vegetable broth. The liquid and warmth begins triggering your satiety hormones before you've even taken a single bite of any other food. And in every traditional Japanese meal, the soup comes first, and there's actually science behind it. For miso, search Hikari organic miso paste on Amazon. You want to have 2 tablespoons in a cup of hot water, 60 seconds, then 3 small separate plates, a palm-sized portion of chicken or salmon or maybe lean beef, eggs. You can have a vegetable side, anything with carotenoids like I mentioned in step 2, and you want a fist-sized starchy carb, maybe sweet potato, brown rice, quinoa. Keep them separate, and you don't have to combine them into a plate. And I'm showing you what this looks like. You want a mug of that Hikari miso soup first, then 5 ounces of baked salmon, roasted asparagus, and let's say half a sweet potato. It's the same macros as throwing everything on one plate, but a completely different insulin curve. My client Thomas was hitting his protein goals, training well, but eating one enormous meal every time. And that was overwhelming, sending all his signals haywire. When we restructured things for him, he was able to see his belly fat gone in 8 weeks. Those are the 5 Japanese rules to losing visceral fat. Let me know if you guys want me to make the 5 visceral fat food diet in the comments down below.